Says that he is ready to make a deal on DACA, but he is telling Democrats, build the wall or I'm not budging.
Legislation on DACA must secure the border with a wall, and crucially, the legislation must end chain migration. It must end the visa lottery. I can tell you the Republicans want to see it work out very well. If we have support from the Democrats, I think DACA is going to be terrific.
Well, can the president rally Republicans and Democrats together to get a bill passed? Here now to debate is commentary writer for the Washington Examiner, Philip Wemann, and Democratic strategist Sascha. Thank you both for joining us early this morning.
It is early.
Yeah, it is. So, Sascha, I'll start with you. Do you think they can get it done and both sides come together on this?
Well, they'll get it done once Trump drops paying for the wall. That's the bottom line.
But Democrats, he says that has to happen.
Well, right, but it's not going to. So he says a lot of things, Heather. But, you know, when you think about what the campaign promise is, it was, you think back to the rallies, who's going to pay USA? No, that was not it. It was Mexico. So go get a check from Mexico, and then we can talk about whether there's a wall.
So, Philip, what do you think? Because President Trump has said it has to be payment for the border wall for anything else to move forward.
Well, it's confusing because we need to figure out what the definition of a wall actually is. After that public meeting yesterday, President Trump said that it would be, a physical, a very real wall. But then you have senators like James Lankford saying, well, the president doesn't actually want a 30-foot wall on the whole 2,200-mile border. So it's confusing to figure out what the president actually wants. The one thing that's clear, though, is that the result of these negotiations, this is going to impress on base voters on their minds as they head to the polls in 2018. So Republicans can't screw this one up.
Right. And how will that work? Because you have people on both sides in both parties who are not willing to budge. So there are Republicans that would not be happy if President Trump makes a deal in terms of DACA.
Well, one of these sides is going to have to give, and I think that you can't underestimate the extraordinary pressure that Democrats are under right here, because right now they have the leverage going into this government shutdown debate because of the arithmetic. Republicans are going to need 60 votes to get any agreement across the finish line. So there's going to have to be Democratic buy-in. The question is what Democratic senators can actually work with Republicans and survive backlash from their own progressive base.
Right, and then there's the same question in terms of, Sascha, Democrats and their base that is so extreme on their side, because if there's an agreement that works into this in terms of chain migration and the visa lottery, they're not going to be happy.
Well, I mean, whether or not I think they'll be happy with the Dreamers being safe and with the government not shutting down. And in terms of the pressure on them, I hope they all feel pressure to not shut down the government. But the Republicans in Congress know that they are the ones who will be faulted if the government shuts down. And with, as you were saying, Trump hasn't exactly said what what are the parameters that have to be. They're not going to fall on the sword for him again.
Philip?
So the one thing that I think is actually important to point out here is that there's reason to be optimistic, as silly as that sounds. You have Senator Lindsey Graham saying that, some bill is going to get to the president's desk. And historically, this is something that Democrats were not able to do when they controlled both chambers of Congress and also, when it was a divided government. So the fact that there even is appetite right here, I think is remarkable, that there's appetite for a bipartisan deal. And if something does get to the finish line, I think it'll be, a remarkable achievement, even if both sides aren't happy with the final result.
All right. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. Philip and Sascha, thank you. Have a great weekend.